please join me in welcoming Colonel Hamilton to the stage.
The views expressed here are my own and not the Air Force, the Department of Defense, the King, or F-16 pilots. And if you know me, you know why I'm saying that. This is off the record. We're going to talk about some stuff. You know, I never met an airman that was afraid of one of our adversaries, afraid to charge the hill. I've met plenty of airmen that are afraid of DTS, Defense Travel System. Our assignment process, my vector. Man, that gives me chills just thinking about my vector. Man, so many frustrations. What has happened to the Air Force? I mean, how many of you, like me, spend like 2 to 5 minutes every morning logging into your computer, your dumb computer?
Oh, yeah.
Preach it.
And then the Chiefs, 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm just saying.
That's right. Well, and then don't even get me started, but you did. Like clicking on an email and sending an email. You know how long it takes me on my personal computer to open up an email? We're talking a few milliseconds. And for the F-16 pilots in the room, that is less than a second. But you know how long it takes if I'm on my government computer? It's like 2 or 3 seconds every single time. I press an email, I sit there, I get a coffee, I come back, it's still waiting. Man, and it's become normal, hasn't it? We're like, oh, we'll just accept that this is the way it has to be, this is the way it is. Now let me focus my eye around my eval. So for the guests out there, my eval is our evaluation performance system. It dropped about a year ago and it is not going great. My eval is so slow.
How slow is it?
There we go. Yes. It is so slow, the Marine Corps stopped using it to track their F-35s because they found something faster. It doesn't even make sense, but I didn't realize the Marine was going to be so close to escape. I'm going to go to the other side. So over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to complain about the Air Force. Who's with me? No, I'm kidding. Well, I sometimes joke, you know, that the Air Force is lucky that I love America. It's far from the truth, right? We serve this institution because it's a beacon of freedom. The people we serve alongside our total force airmen, our family members, they represent the best of America. I love my Air Force family. I'm honored to serve. But I think that's precisely why we all get so fired up when we see failings of our systems or our processes. We desperately want things to be better because we deeply care about advancing the cause of air power against an unrelenting foe. Whoop. So, how do we do something about our issues without creating a culture of complaint? Because I am really good at complaining about stuff. We don't want to create a culture of complaint. Oftentimes we think technology has our answers. And I heart technology, it's so great. But I'm wary of it too, as we all should be, right? There are obvious opportunities, but really clear pitfalls as well. Let's take a look at some cool technology. We got jet suits flying around, boarding boats now. We got Falcon 9s landing on ships out in the ocean. Boston Dynamic robot doing flips. Are you kidding me? You guys see, actually today, New York even announced, they have a 400-pound robot that is monitoring the subways, and they got dogs in New York City that's going to help in like disaster relief. Amazing potential. There's never been such an exciting moment in our lifetime to be able to serve. But if we really want to think about technology, we need to address some of the biases that we bring to that technology. So let's talk about novelty bias. Novelty bias is the idea that because something's new, it's awesome. Or optimism bias. Because I want it to work so well, I'm going to believe in it, even though we don't always understand the tertiary effects that some of our technology may have. I'm going to show you a video right now, which is basically an awesome machine that farmers are starting to use. It goes over crops, and it uses lasers to zap all of the weeds. Amazing. Pew, 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 pew. So cool. But sometimes we don't understand, like, if we implement this technology, what is that going to maybe look like? Maybe the weeds are going to be sad. No, but really, like, we use less pesticide. But there are implications, and the smartphone is the clearest thing in my mind. The smartphone is an amazing tool, but guess what? It created an epidemic of loneliness and social anxiety. That doesn't mean we should throw it away and not use it. It means we need to understand our biases and the pitfalls with some of this technology. There's also some, I like to coin the Hollywood bias. Movies are amazing. I myself like 18th century period pieces. After a long day of my emails not opening up, a little Downton Abbey does the trick. But ultimately we believe in the hype sometimes of those Hollywood producers. We believe the technology is as cool and advanced as they show us on the big screen, and it is not. There's also path dependency and confirmation bias. QWERTY keyboard. You know why the keyboard's like this? Well, back in the day when General Garrity was going through high school, they had the typewriter, and they had to make the keyboard so that the little bars wouldn't come up and hit each other. So they created, this is the QWERTY keyboard that we're kind of stuck with now. You know how difficult it would be to change all the QWERTY keyboards? And how many people would be like, there's no way, this is the best, I love it. Because they have confirmation bias that they want to believe and have confirmation of what they believe. The military has a challenge with path dependency. That's really what this is. Because we get stuck using antiquated systems like the F-16.
Boo! Boo!
All of these biases, though, can ultimately make us miss the issue. Technology development is a painstaking process, and we often oversimplify the complexities of these systems. The truth is that technological advancements always come with challenges. Here's a picture of my great-grandfather. He was one of the first pilots, actually, to fly. He learned to fly in 1917. And fast forward a few decades, he served in the Army Air Corps and was the base commander of Hickam Army Airfield on Thanksgiving of 1941. He got on a plane with my grandma in tow, came back to the States 7 days before Pearl Harbor happened, and their house actually still remains on Hickam as a historic house that has some bullet holes in it. But regardless, just a cool side note, the technology that he was dealing with decades, centuries ago, right, it advanced quite rapidly to a certain extent. But technology in general, like, they took risks differently, and of course, it's a different age. But we need to understand that all technology, even elevator doors, you know how those still kill a few dozen people every year, right? Technology development is painstaking, and we have to be able to understand the risks, the dangers with the technology, because we can never field something dangerous. We cannot be blind to the risks of the technology, but don't think that current advancements won't take time and they won't be devoid of risks, because they will be. They'll be full of risks. We have to understand those risks. Here's another question for you. How do you trust technology? AutoGcast is the best example that I have about trusting technology. Automatic ground collision avoidance system. The AutoGcast is a system where the aircraft knows it's going to hit the ground, and the last possible second, it recovers and takes control away from the pilot to make that recovery. It was developed in the late 1980s by test professionals, and it was ready for F-16s in the early 2000s. But we did not put it in F-16s till 2014. From 2000 to 2014, we lost 17 pilots to ground collisions where AutoGcast would have saved them. And then, in 2014, the Secretary of Defense mandated that AutoGcast be put in F-16s against the desires of the pilot community. And within 6 months, it had its first save, and the pilots started trusting in the system. And now, they won't go on certain missions without this AutoGcast working. It saved 12 pilots and 11 aircraft from ground collision. And here is one of them. GForces. I know it's really hard to see in the back, but for the people that can see, this says 0.9 G, this is a heads-up display, 480 knots, 17,000 feet. Pilots pulling 6 Gs, 7 Gs, 8.3 Gs. They're unconscious. They're going downhill, passing 500 miles an hour, 600 miles an hour, really, 500 knots. His flight leads yelling at him, "To recover, to recover." This pilot is still unconscious. AutoGcast took control away from the pilot and recovered them to a safe attitude. What was it though? It took 14 years to implement it when the technology was somewhat ready. Trust. Trust. How do we build trust in these systems? Well, for starters, it's good to understand the technology, the systems that we're dealing with. How do we build trust in, let's say, artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence, I'm here to try to demystify some of it, y'all. It is a really, most of the AI that we deal with, I should say, like ChatGPT, people on ChatGPT. Yeah, it's like a really fancy autocomplete. It is. It's software, really fancy autocomplete. You basically are trying to teach it, in this instance, like what a dog looks like. So you give it a picture of a dog and you label, hey, this is a dog, and you give it 10 million of those. And you give it 10 million other pictures that are not dogs and say this is not a dog. And so over time, that software code is kind of rewriting itself to a certain degree. It's learning. That's why we call it machine learning, but it's not learning like you and me. It's just categorizing things a different way and seeing the ones and zeros ways that we can't see it. And it's helping shape its own code with guardrails put up to identify what a dog is. So it knows that this is a dog, and then after you've trained it, you can give it a picture and say, hey, tell me if this is a dog or not. So, dog, not a dog. General Garrity, you are looking good, my man. That was the first photo that popped up on Google, just so you know.
Typed in dog?
Oh, General Garrity. I'm going for the record. Put the boss on the bus. Put myself on the bus. What's an amazing fighter aircraft? Awesome. You guys know where this one's going. Not awesome. Hey. Boo. You don't know. Let's meet in the. We'll go dogfight while you kick my hand. So understanding technology allows us to ethically develop and implement the technology. Because as I was saying, the autocomplete function, the same thing as with synthetic aperture radars here. Synthetic aperture radars kind of look through clouds and weather, and it can paint the picture of what the ground is, but it's not the way we look at the ground, like an electro-optical image. So we can train AI to say, hey, this is a SAR image and this is what the EO image actually is. Do that hundreds of thousands of times, and then you take away the electro-optical image and say, you tell me what you think the electro-optical image is. And you don't talk to it like that, you're like coding. Once again, it's just software. And it comes up with great response. And I'll tell you, you have the SAR images here, you have the electro-optical images here, and this is also something we're using with global synthetic weather radar, where it's painting the picture of what the weather should look like. But the problem with this isn't real. It's what the AI system thinks it looks like, right? And it's the same with autocomplete. If you went into the earlier versions of GPT and you put how many humans lived on Mars, you know it would give you a non-zero number, right? Because it was trained on the internet, and there's a lot of people living on Mars in movies like Total Recall. It doesn't know what a movie is. So we need to understand the limitations as we're dealing with this technology. That allows us to demystify the technology. As I said, AI is just software, but you wouldn't know that necessarily if you bought into all the dystopian storytelling coming out of Hollywood. Hollywood bias. It's not a new thing. That's, I think, a new thing. I'm coining it tonight. Boom. So technology requires our understanding to know its limitations, effectively unlock its potential, sure. But I'm not just talking about machines and software here tonight. We're talking about the essence of human ambition and adaptability. See, ambition gives birth to innovation, which drives us to challenge the status quo. However, this constant evolution of innovation is not a linear path, right? It's filled with obstacles, setbacks, uncertainties. Some of the videos of those robots flipping or the jet suit flying around, you know how many videos of failures went on for years and years and years, if not decades, with some of that technology? Innovation takes time. Don't lose faith while you fight for change. And I'll tell you, yeah, my eval, DTS, they're better than what we had. I mean, you guys remember, well, some people remember, you used to go to the cage and get paid after you do a travel, like you go on a trip and you go and like hand in your travel voucher and they give you cash, like right there and then. I think DTS is a little better than that, right? But we have to have that type of creative destruction to learn and grow, and it takes time. Our ability to forge through those setbacks is why America's gonna win a war against any of our adversaries. We are creative and we are resilient. Resiliency allows innovation to thrive. So, as we journey from the foundations of technology to the frontiers of innovation, it's imperative to recognize that at the heart of this journey, it lies resiliency, the very force that fuels and fortifies our advancements. Let's talk about resiliency. Betty Robinson, 16 years old. She's late for a train going home from school out of Illinois. She runs for the train. She makes the train. There's a track coach on the train, catches her at school the next day. He's like, Betty, you are really fast. You should get timed later this afternoon. Let's go. She goes down to the hallway and runs like a 50-yard dash. And this coach was like, no, you really have a gift. We're going to go to a meet in about 2-3 weeks up in Chicago. She goes up there, places second to the U.S. record holder. And he's like, Betty, you are something else. I'm taking you to the Olympic trials that are happening in 2 months. She gets on a train, goes to New York with this track coach, places second in the Olympic trials. Like literally Olympic trials happens, she drives to the boat where they get all the Olympians loaded, and she goes across the ocean to Amsterdam. 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. First Olympics, they let women compete in almost all events, including all track and field events. First event, 100-meter dash. Betty Robinson wins a gold medal, first woman to ever win a gold medal in track in Amsterdam. 16 years old, still holds a record for being the youngest person to win a gold medal in the 100-meter dash. She comes home a champion, trains for the 1932 LA Olympics, and at 500 feet while she's flying with her cousin in a plane, they nosedive, and they take her dead, lifeless body from that accident and put her in the trunk of a car. They take her to the morgue. The mortician's like, she's not dead, morons. Take her to the hospital. She gets to the hospital, is in a coma for 3 months, wakes up. They say, Betty, you're never going to run again, you'll probably never walk again. She starts being able to wiggle her feet, stand up, walk, painstaking walk. Over years, starts to run again, and she's still fast. But she can't bend down in a starter's crouch because she has pins all up in her knee because of the accident. But she can't accept a baton, so she goes out and makes the women's 4x100 relay team for the 1936 Berlin Olympics and comes home a gold medalist. Betty Robinson, my grandmother. It's an interesting thought when you think about generational resiliency. The things you overcome today impact generations to come, but do you think Betty did it alone? No. It was the people that were with her every day as she was learning to walk and run again that supported her through that. And she paid that forward. She was an amazing, amazing woman that I knew till she passed when I was 19. Here's a heads-up display. Upper left. Don't worry about the numbers, hard to see. That heads-up display is this aircraft, which is on your left. You're going to witness a dogfighting training maneuvers. The aircraft that's on your right is going to march down this heads-up display about right here in a few seconds. Here it comes. These aircraft have merged. They're fighting against each other. It's dogfighting. They're trying to get to a position of advantage. The heads-up display on the left is the aircraft on the right now as they're about to merge again. Aircraft is now on the left again for you. Nose comes downhill. There is sky. Here's the Gulf of Mexico. They're 5,300 feet away from each other at that moment, the farthest apart. They're 7 seconds from impact, which happens now. What you can't hear in the audio is an aircraft out of control that's saying engine fire left, engine fire right. February 20th, 2008, this was me. I was training, 33rd Fighter Wing. I was in the Mighty Gorillas. We were doing high aspect BFM. I was watching my wingman the entire time. Something felt weird when I said we were 5,300 feet away from each other. We were 7 seconds from impact. At 3,000 feet, there's nothing either of us could have done to avoid the collision. I braced for the impact. My wingman impacts about 20 feet behind me, a closure of around 500 miles an hour. I lost my vision right away, but not my consciousness. I get my vision back a few seconds later, and the aircraft is telling me it's out of control. And it said it's on fire. Nothing's a fluid memory. So I'm like trying to figure out what to do as all the fire lights are going off, and I'm reaching for the engines, but I'm like stuck up in my seat, not knowing that I'm just tumbling through the sky. And I look up, and we have 3 rear view mirrors in the F-15, and they're completely engulfed in flames. At that point, I reach down, I'm like, I'm not surviving this aircraft, and I pull the ejection handles, and I'm out. And I'm sitting there under my parachute, and I'm like, is this real? What just happened? And about a minute later, I start doing the after ejection checklist: canopy, visor, mask, seekit, LQ, 4-line steer. Doesn't matter what those things are. I'm saying it that fast, but I'm not doing any of it. And then I get down to my seekit portion, which is where all of our survival equipment is, like our life raft and our radios and our signaling devices, and I drop it all. Negative transfer bias. When you emergency ground egress out of a fighter aircraft, you detach your seat kit so you can run away. But that seat kit has all your survival stuff, so if you eject, you don't do that, you just make sure it's there. So I detach my seat kit, I hit the water, 60 degrees, 6-foot waves, 70 miles south of Panama City, and I am pulled right away, thinking I'm gonna die. A 25-foot fishing vessel that was out for the day, 70 miles south of Panama City, happened upon me in the Gulf of Mexico because no one else could find me. I have a life preserver unit around my neck, that's it. They're like, hey man, you wanna ride? Yes, please. And I survived. My wingman, he tragically perished on impact. There's my aircraft. They fished it from the Gulf a few months after that, got that HUD tape as well from it. There's a blessing in disguise when you survive a close call. You don't need to be in a mid-air collision to know that. What are your priorities? How are you living for them? Those are all important things. You also have to admit your mistakes. Strive to learn from them. Don't be afraid to share lessons learned with others. Resiliency. When you're in that moment and those waves are crashing down upon you, it is hard to see the shoreline. That's when we need to surround other people with support and help, because we take our own experiences to those experiences and help lift them up, right? Resiliency. This is also where technology meets resiliency. Fast forward 4 years and I'm at test pilot school, and it just so happened, it's serendipity, that they needed a team to test the first ever automatic air collision avoidance. You heard about AutoGcast. AutoGcast is when the technology knows that 2 aircraft are going to collide, take control away from the pilots and avoid the collision. Here's a recreation of an F-16 that collided with the T-38 out at Edwards. F-16 and they just didn't see each other. Killed both T-38 pilots. AutoGcast, like I said, the aircraft are talking to each other. They recognize the collision, and then, at the last possible second, they take control away from the pilot, avoid the collision. First one to ever test and fly this. You think I thought that, sitting in the Gulf of Mexico, those years earlier, thinking my career was over, or first that I was going to die, and then my career was over? You don't know what the future holds. We don't know that. But we do know we need to strive to move forward with, alongside our brothers and sisters. But Cinco, you're supposed to be speaking about innovation. Innovation's not about technology. Surprise! It's a mindset. Technology is a tool. Upsides, downsides, sure. But we unlock our future through our spirit. A spirit rooted in resiliency and a deep-seated passion to push boundaries, not accept the frustrations brought on by our bureaucracy. When we stop worshiping at the altar of bureaucracy, we will be successful. We idolize bureaucracy rather than celebrate the intent behind it. We can learn to innovate when we see that intent. There are many types of innovation. There's process innovation, radical innovation like creative destruction. We don't know when an opportunity will present itself to innovate something, but we need to be ready. We need our workforce, you all, to be invested in being ready. This includes understanding the technology, the opportunities, the pitfalls. This is a culture of innovation, a willingness to challenge the status quo, garner other opinions, fight for feedback, empower those deserving empowerment. Not everyone deserves empowerment. That's your job to get them there and to let them loose. But take risks without losing sight of that intent and drive change by being resilient. You want to be innovative? Take those complaints that you have, that I have, do something about it. If you're a leader, listen to the complaints of the team around you. Do something about it. Be passionate about change. But don't forget that we're in this together. As humans, we like to blame people. My wife blames me for everything. But she, I want to make clear, is right. Is always my fault. Happy birthday, dear, by the way. Tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
No, Chief. No. Don't chief us, Chief. But it's never so simple, right? We need to show grace. Grace is one of the most important ingredients because it keeps our passion rooted in collaboration and decency. We can't change the world alone. I like to joke that we rage against the frozen middle with a pickaxe. You know what's better to get rid of ice? Probably not a pickaxe, maybe a warm fire. Go give people hugs. There's some truth in that, right? We want to bring people alongside. We want to take passion and view it in them so we can drive change. So as we stand at the frontier of groundbreaking technology that is Eglin Air Force Base, and that is from AI-powered drones and autonomy and eVTOLs and weapons that I can't even talk about, they're so awesome. We're doing amazing things here. But with all that, our hearts are pulsing with an unwavering dedication to our community and our nation, demonstrated through our service in this great Air Force. Our journey, our Air Force, our nation, wasn't sculpted by timidity or succumbing to challenges. Instead, we forged our path with resolute resilience, propelling technology, leaps of technology, with an unshakable spirit of innovation. It's a spirit. It's not bad to complain. But let's use that frustration to drive our passion to change what we have the power to change. And keep resilient, be patient, show grace, and deliver the future. Happy birthday, Air Force.
Thank you, Colonel Hamilton, for your